You may have heard Python referred to as an interpreted language. What does that really mean? Well, for us in the 16th, when we talk about Python, we're really talking about CPython, which is the reference implementation of the Python language. Think of it like MP3 is a standard, and LAME is an implementation of that standard used to encode MP3 files. Python's the same way. Python is a language. It's a standard, and there's different implementations of it. CPython is the most common one, and it's also the reference implementation. So from this point forward, whenever I say Python, I'm really referring to CPython. So Python is both an interpreter and a compiler. Python will first compile your code into bytecode, and you may see .pyc files, for example. The interpreter then executes this bytecode. The reason for this video is I want to talk about how you can interact with the interpreter directly. And it's very simple. You just type the interpreter into the command line, and it puts you into an interactive mode with the interpreter. And the prompt for that is these three angled brackets. All of the symbols that you create while you're in this interpreter will exist as long as this interactive session exists. As soon as you leave it, those symbols will be gone. For example, if I say x equals 7 and then I refer to x, it's there. If I quit the interpreter and fire it back up, x is no longer defined. The interpreter is very useful for testing small snippets of code. You can import your modules and run functions and classes from out of your own modules to see if they're working the way you want them to. Pretty much anything you can do from inside your script, you can do in the interactive mode. One of the things I like to use it for is to find out what kind of object is returned when I call something. For example, let's say I import the pathlib module and I want to create a path object. It tells me that it's a POSIX path object. One last thing I want to mention about the interactive mode is it actually has a startup file. It's not there by default, but you can specify one. So for example, if we had a little module, and then we set our Python startup environment variable to that module, you'll see that when we go into the interpreter, it executes whatever's in there before it gives you the prompt. So that's interactive mode with the Python interpreter.